Hey guys, and welcome to a studio update. Been a bit quiet recently, but here we go. I've now got the mixer physically installed. There she is, beautiful 40 channels of classic British mixer, split console. I built a wooden frame to house it on. There's a picture of the wooden frame when I was building it. And then what I did for the final bit is I put this raised wooden lip beam all the way down, and that stops the mixer from physically sliding off the front. That's all physically installed now. I did a test of the mixer before I installed it, but now it's in place. I need to do a thorough test of everything all the way through. It's going to be quite a long, time-consuming thing, but I've got to do that. One thing I can tell you is the MIDI muting works 100% on it now. I've got some mutes set up, so I activate them. You can see this, but boom, there you go. Look. On this board, the 4 mutes that I chose on the next board, same thing, on, those 4. And on the final board, on. And on the main board, the ones I set up also are on, there they are, off, on. So the MIDI muting is working 100% across all the channels, which is really good. I doubt I'll use it, but it's nice to have it. Okay, couple of things. Even though I don't have it flush against the wall, which is partly because how I designed the frame and also the angle, this power connector is squished against the wall there. Don't want that. So I'm going to have to take this off and replace it with the right angle one, so it doesn't get squashed like that. This is like a Neutrik multi-pin, right? So I have to take that off and solder a fresh one on with an angle. And then that gap all along the back, actually I was messing around and I found some pipe foam and I thought, ooh, I put a piece in like that, like this. It's just, you know, standard pipe installation or thick pipe installation, and it works fantastic. Look at it, just fits in there, and it's got this lovely foam. Like, you know, you don't need to. It doesn't have to be glued or anything. It just stays there, and it looks really nice. That silver foam thing along the top. So when I've got that power lead replaced, soft plug, I'll put the foam all the way along the top. That'll look great, and it'll stop sound bouncing around in that hole down there, etc. So that's what I'll do there. Okay, so that's the mixer physically installed, but not wired up yet. Now the rack, I showed you the rack already. I just put all the gear in there. Well, not all of it, there's other bits, but I put a load of gear in there. It's all in the wrong order just to get it out of the way. But now what has to happen is the mixer's physically installed. The next thing is all the cabling, patch bays and everything have to be totally serviced and be 100%. So the patch bays, every bit of equipment has to come out until the only thing in the rack is the patch bays. Then I've got to get a burnishing tool. Every single socket has to be burnished. And then every single lead, the jack on the end has to be thoroughly polished and clean. Then I start testing it. And where necessary, because this is entirely hardwired, this patch bay. There's no jacks plugging in the back. It's all physically hardwired. If necessary, I'll have to disconnect everything and re-tin it and resolder it and everything like that. Same with some of the plugs. If they're a bit dodgy, I've got to open them up, disconnect them, re-tin them, everything, resolder them. It's a big job, but that has to be thoroughly done. So that at the end of it, the only thing that will be in here will be the patch bay and all the looms are behind. There's tons of it. It's a rat nest at the moment. There's another insert loom coming off up here, etc. Well, we've got to get it to the point where the patch bay, every single socket is 100% and every lead coming off every socket is 100%, and then we can begin rewiring. Then what I'm going to do is each bit of equipment, one by one, we're going to put it on the bench, we're going to look at it, we're going to clean it, we're going to check it, we're going to service it as best we can, and we'll find out what does and what doesn't work, and then we'll chuck out stuff that doesn't work, whatever. So we have to get everything cleaned, polished, everything works, everything lubricated, no crackling pots, nothing like that. And then put the gear back in one by one and connect it up and get everything connected up to the mixer. That's what needs to happen there. Now the bench, which I showed you already, I bought some of these cable covers like you get in an office for the monitor, the power and connecting leads to come through and everything neat and tidy. I've fitted one at this end. I've got some others to fit if I need them up down the bench. So at the moment I've got the monitor set up. The Mac Pro is under here set up, connected to the monitor on the digital input, and I've built a little shelf above it for hard drives. The Mac Pro is running Catalina. If you want to see how to do that, check our channel, just search Mac Pro Catalina. If you want to learn how to set up Catalina on an old Mac Pro. So I built a little shelf here. I'm probably going to take everything off it and give it a paint so it's nice and white. But at the moment I've got the Drobo on there. I've got a couple of 8TB My Books there. I've got an old Lacey Quadra there, but there's a bunch of other drives. Like I've got a whole bunch of these Lacey Porsche drives which have got data on. And I've got, there's a My Book down there. There's plenty of other My Books lying around that have to go under there. So I'll probably have to build another disc shelf under there as well. And I've got the G-Speed ES there. That has to be put under there as well, etc. And the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to build a little tiny shelf just there, next to these hard drive shelf, which will house my little Windows 10 laptop. I use that connected to an external monitor with a Bluetooth mouse and keyboard. Now that's the computer I use for all the server stuff, coding and everything like that. So I'll have that on a little tiny shelf there. It can sit under there on its own shelf, and I'll connect it to the screen with the RGB input. Then I can switch the screen between the laptop for doing the coding and the web stuff, and the Mac Pro when I need to do disk stuff, because this basically acts as a disk farm and storage setup really. And that's what will happen there. The car keys, they're going to be mounted up on the wall out of the way and all the rest of it. Okay, because I want the bench as absolutely clear as possible. Now, my main computer, what I do all the DAW stuff on and all the video editing on is a Mac, an iMac. It's getting a bit long in the tooth now, right? So I'm thinking about getting a Mac Mini with 16 gig of RAM. That will be power. I'd prefer a Mac Studio, but I just can't afford it. But a Mac Mini 8-core with 16 gig of RAM will be more powerful than the iMac, and it'll allow me to run the latest Apple operating system. So I'm thinking of getting one of those. But regardless of whether I do that or stick with the iMac, as you know from the channel, if you follow the channel, my main audio interface for the DAW is Behringer UMC 1820. Now what I'm planning to do is get the ADAT unit to go with that, the ADA 8200. So then I'll have 16 physical ins and outs for the DAW. Now I'll mount the Behringers, the two audio interfaces, giving me 16 total ins and outs. I'll either mount them under the bench, right, so they sort of, the inputs are easily available, or maybe up at the top under that shelf. But they'll be over here next to the DAW, whether it's the Mac Mini or the iMac. But then what I'm going to need to do is I've got to integrate the DAW ins and outs into the rack and the mixer system. So I'm going to have to build a loom running from the audio interface inputs and outputs round the room and then up into the rack, and I'll have to get a patch bay dedicated just for the ins and outs of the DAW. And that way all the DAW inputs and outputs will come to the rack here, and that way we can integrate the mixer with the DAW with the mixer. Any bits of hardware can be fed in or out into the DAW, or outputs can be fed to hardware in the rack, etc, etc, and the whole thing becomes integrated. Okay, so that's what I've got to do. I've got to build a loom for that, and for the purpose of that I've got 100 meters of this Sommer Studio Flex. I don't know if you're going to see this, but it's high quality German oxygen free Studio Flex. It's got a foil wrap and 2 cores in earth. So there's 100 meters of that ready to go. I got that from Studio Spares for 65 quid. If you want any, you better hurry if you're British and you know Studio Spares, because they're running that down now, and when they've got rid of it all they won't have any more. But that's a good price. 65 quid for 100 meters is a good price. So that's that, and then there's other bits and bobs to do, like there's an 8-track up there I'm going to be using for the sound recording tutorials. There's a Supernova up there that needs servicing and putting in the rack. I've got to get some extra rack ears to put extra gear in there because there's other bits. I'll just have a general chucking out and everything like that. There's some old synths I'm going to sell. There's a Korg Mini Korg 700 up there and an SH2000. I've got a very rare Crumar Trilogy here as well. I don't know how well they work. I'm just going to get them on the bench, show them to you, make a video, stick them on eBay, and I want them out. I don't care if I don't get hardly anything for them. I just want them out of here. They're taking up too much room. I was keeping them as an investment, but you know, I can't do that anymore. And I want them gone. There's other synths and things up there as well. There's a K2000, there's an Emax, there's an Sonic EPS, etc, etc. There's oh my god, there's a Red Sounds Dark Star, there's a DX100, there's all sorts of other bits up there. There's the spark drum machine. There you can just see the edge of. That's the soft tube console one. You can just see the edge of, etc., etc. So there's more chucking out and organising to do. Okay, so like that's all that. And I bought myself a motorbike. And there she is. Oh, isn't she a beauty? Yeah, I know what you're saying. Oh, but Keeley, you should have spent all that money on more synthesizers and music gear. No, you know what? No. I've ridden bikes all my life, going back to when I was a teenager, and for the last years I've not had one. And I thought, you know what? I want a motorbike again. I do. So there it is. I've got a motorbike. Yeah, I love it, man. And well, you know, I've got to have one for my midlife crisis, right? You know what I mean? Incidentally, I got a Bluetooth headset for it, one of the more popular ones on Amazon, so I'll be doing a review of that as well, because it's audio related, isn't it? And I've got a few other bits to review. I mean, as I told you, we're going to be, every bit of work I do on this, I'm going to be video diarying it, so you get to see all this stuff. But I've got a few bits to review. I've got some software to review that I need to be doing. But hardware stuff, I've got a few bits, one of which is this Joyo battery or mains powered practice or busking amp. If you're into the busking scene, it's fairly well known, this, but it's very, very cheap. £33 British pounds. It's ridiculously cheap. It's made of plastic, but it's surprisingly loud. Okay, it runs off a 9-volt DC Boss style negative centre pin power supply which comes with it, or 6A batteries. So we're going to be doing a full review of this out on the street, actually being used to busk, so you can actually hear how loud this thing is in real life on the street, actually doing a busking thing, right? Also, I got this lithium-ion 8,500 milliamp hours power supply, so I'll be reviewing the two together. Now, I can't vouch for the longevity of how long this lasts when it's powering this at loud volume, but I did a lot of investigation, and finally got this. Now, it's, as I say, lithium-ion power pack that's primarily sold to power cameras or telescopes in the field, but it's got a 9 and 12 volt DC out as well as a USB out to power your phone, which is really cool and useful if you're busking and you're running your backing tracks off a phone. Comes with a power supply to charge it, and it comes with the 12 and 9 volt DC leads, but they got positive centre pin. So with it, I got one of these little adapters to make it negative centre pin, and it runs the Joyo 100%. So I'll be reviewing both those out in situ. You'll see them being used to busk, and we'll get those reviewed. Fantastic little amp. It's louder than you think, man. It really is. In fact, the power supply costs more than the amp. But we'll find out how long this lasts in the field when we get out and do that. So I've got those to review. I've got the Bluetooth headset to review, and also I've got a couple of these, or one each of these. These are actually brand new. I've not actually used them. Well, I mean, I've tried them out, but they're brand new. And that is one each of the Tom Mann own brand guitar bag and bass bag. And I'm telling you, they're unbelievable value for money. Either of those is under 20 British pounds. Seriously. When my friends saw one, they were like, how much? I paid 40 something pound for my Fender bag, and this is way better. Trust me, I'm going to do a full bench review and you can see these in real detail. They are really well made. I mean, really well made. Really well padded. The straps are good, everything, the detailing, everything, man, trust me. So I'll be reviewing those as well. So we got those to review, we got the little Joyo and the power block to review. I've got some software to review. I've got the Bluetooth motorbike helmet thing and the motorbike I'm going to review because I just want to. And then all the process of getting all this wired and serviced and getting it all working, we'll get all that done as well. And yeah, that's what's coming. Okay, so there you go. That's the story. Oh, and I've been doing a lot of work on the website. A hell of a lot. Did I say that? I've been working over the last 6 months, mostly in the evenings and early mornings, coding, integrating the database into the site, tweaking the CSS and everything like that. So it's kind of almost done now. And now it's getting to the point where that coding part is done. I've been doing a lot of database updates and reconfiguring the database and stuff. It's all getting really to a point where it's ready to launch. So now that the coding is almost done for the database stuff, to finish it I just need to go back and finish the static pages, or get them at least to the point where I can launch. So I'll be launching the new site in the new year, as well as like the new channel with the new studio setup, I suppose. And then I'm going to see if I can go out and get sponsorship and things like that, and set up a Patreon and all that. If you guys want to fund it, you think we're doing good work here and everything like that, cool banana. You know what I mean? But there it is. That's the updates for today. Hope that's interesting to you. I mean, obviously, this channel is more about studio stuff. It's not like, yo, my YouTubers, yo, what's going on? Today we're going to look at better ways to make your kick drum really bang. Like, EQ it, compress it, there you go. That's how you do it. See you later. It's not that kind of thing, you know. You know what this channel's about. It's more the deep stuff, right? So, yeah. It's diverse, man. So, yeah. That's where we are. So, please subscribe. Put the notifications on, get the word out. As I said, once all this is wired up and the door integration is all done, everything, I'm going to be starting on my sound recording tutorial college course. And it's going to be the proper thing, mate. Trust me. It'll be exactly like you get in a college where you pay thousands of pounds. But it probably will be better. Actually, because I'm going to teach you the real stuff. The real stuff, right? And it's not what you think, maybe. Okay, there's some stuff that just never gets taught or talked about on YouTube at all. But you'll see if you're really into it. Okay. All right, so there you go. That's the updates. Stay tuned. And I'll see you for more stuff soon. See you later, guys. Bye.